Hi, I'm Steve. In this video, I'm going to be showing you some of the wonderful outboard effects that we have at our disposal here at Vintage Key Studio. For many years, most people who record and mix music have relied upon emulations of some of these effects in the form of plugins. These are convenient and relatively inexpensive, and on the most part, they sound pretty similar to what they are setting out to recreate. I grew up in the end of the tape era, pre-computers, or at least computers that could do anything useful with sound, as I am old. So having a large room full of old stuff is a comfort to me. It is also great fun, and I think sounds better than a plugin. You may disagree. If you do, tough. Quite often, many people who use effects via a computer are completely oblivious as to how these original sounds were achieved in a real-life studio situation. For instance, effects like delay, phasing and flanging came about in the 1960s to fulfill a need that somebody somewhere required during mixing or recording. Artificial double tracking, or ADT, was invented in the 1960s by an EMI studio engineer called Ken Townsend, after John Lennon had asked why the hell he had to keep recording his vocal tracks over and over again and double tracking them. And he asked if they could invent a machine that double tracked voices. So they set to work and they managed to work out a way of doing it using a tape recorder. These effects all relied upon tape recorders hooked up in a special way. And the tape recorders had to have 3 heads: an erase, a record, and a playback head. And before you scrabble around trying to find your old cassette Walkmans, it must be noted that most cassette machines only had 2 heads: an erase and combined record playback head. Useless. To achieve any kind of delay, the sound has to be recorded onto tape and then physically played back moments after by the playback head. Here we have an old home hi-fi reel-to-reel machine, an Akai 4000D, which dates from around 1971. It was a fairly high-quality machine, and the fact that it still works now after almost 50 years later is a testament to its designers. They don't make them like that anymore. So as to easily demonstrate the delay effect on this machine, I have set it to 3 3/4 inches per second. First, we start with the source signal. I have routed the snare drum track out via an auxiliary send to the tape recorder. So when I increase the effect return control back into the desk, you can hear the snare sound instantly repeated. The snare is arriving at the record head at the very moment I am playing it, and then it is being instantly replayed when the 3 or so centimeters of tape have moved from the record and then onto the playback head. Here is the same setup, but with the tape running at double the speed, 7.5 inches per second. If you allow the signal coming from the tape recorder to then feed back into the machine so it can hear itself, it will create this sound. This is where tape feedback delays originated. The physical gap between the record and playback heads are very useful ways of playing around with the fabric of time. If you pre-delay a copy of the source sound via your computer, so it is secretly playing just before we can actually hear it, you can feed this pre-delayed sound to the tape recorder, and with a bit of adjustment with the pre-delay time, you can recreate the popular effect of artificial double tracking, or ADT. The sound you hear coming from the DAW, or DAW, has already been sent to the tape recorder moments before. And if you then fade in this pre-delayed sound, but after it has been delayed on the tape recorder, it almost marries up with the original source signal, but not quite.
He was just a man who spoke.
This gives what is, in effect, a doubled sound. You could argue that you could just copy the same track twice and nudge it slightly on the computer. That would work, but being digital audio, there would be no fluctuation in the sound, and both sounds would run concurrently from the beginning to the end with no change in pitch or speed. No tape recorder's motor is 100% accurate, so there is always a more random and more human sound to this effect because the tape recorder's speed is subtly fluctuating. This is called wow and flutter. Now we switch over to a tape echo machine which has a vari-speed control, which will allow the capstan of the tape recorder inside to rotate slightly faster or slightly slower depending on where you set the speed knob. Using this setup, in combination with a similar pre-delay setting coming from the computer's DAW, we can recreate a very good live tape phasing effect, which you can actually control in real time as the recording is playing.
He's not one of a kind. Gentleman ponies, cinnamon rollies. He was just a man who spoke his mind.
Smells like 1968 in here. I hope you've enjoyed hearing these interesting effects from whence they first originated. While they can be recreated digitally, A, this has been much more fun, and B, you get much more of a random human feel this way. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to our channel and check out our website vintagekeysstudio.com for more info on all of our equipment and services that we provide. Thank you very much indeed. Good night. Is that it?
That was much better.
Au revoir.